If you've ever loved someone and quietly told yourself, they'll change once they really love me back, stop right there. That one sentence has ended more relationships than cheating, distance, and money problems combined. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your brain keeps confusing love with a renovation project. Here's something almost nobody admits out loud. Most people don't fall in love with who someone is. They fall in love with who that person could become. And the moment you do that, you're not loving a human being anymore. You're loving a potential version of them that may never exist. And here's the part that makes this dangerous. It happens slowly, quietly, one small hope at a time. You won't even notice you're doing it. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like hope. It feels like love. That's exactly what makes it so hard to catch, and exactly why so many good relationships quietly fall apart, while both people swear they did everything right. Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called the Michelangelo phenomenon, the belief that with enough love, patience, and the right nudge, you can sculpt someone into their ideal self. Sounds romantic, right? Except there's a dark side to it that almost nobody talks about. The dark side is this: when your love depends on someone changing, it's not love anymore. It's a negotiation. And deep down, the other person can feel it. They can sense that your affection has conditions attached to it. And that feeling, even if they can never name it out loud, quietly kills attraction from the inside. There's also an attachment piece to this that almost nobody connects. People with anxious attachment styles are especially likely to fall into this trap. Why? Because for them, love has never felt fully safe. So their brain starts believing that if they can just shape their partner into someone slightly more attentive, slightly more consistent, slightly more emotionally present, then finally, they'll feel secure. Except security built on someone else's transformation was never security at all. It was a hope with a countdown timer attached to it. Let me give you an example. A woman named Sarah dated a man named Josh for 2 years. Josh was messy, avoided conflict, and rarely opened up emotionally. Sarah believed that if she just loved him hard enough, encouraged him enough, and corrected him gently enough, he would eventually become the emotionally available partner she needed. 2 years later, Josh hadn't changed. But Sarah had. She became anxious, resentful, and exhausted from carrying a relationship on her back like a part-time project. And here's the twist nobody expects. Josh didn't leave because Sarah nagged too much. He left because he could feel, every single day, that he was never enough exactly as he was. But Sarah's story isn't rare, and it isn't just something women experience. A man named David did the exact same thing to his girlfriend Maya. Maya was fiercely independent and rarely asked for help. David quietly wished she'd be softer, more dependent on him, more willing to lean on him emotionally. For 3 years he dropped hints, offered advice, and gently pushed. Maya didn't become softer. She became distant, because somewhere along the way, she started to feel like a project instead of a partner. And nothing kills desire faster than feeling like you're someone's assignment. This is the part that shocks people. Wanting someone to change usually doesn't come from love at all. It comes from fear. Fear that if they stay exactly as they are, you won't be safe, secure, or happy. So your brain quietly disguises fear as motivation and calls it love. But your nervous system knows the difference, even when your mind refuses to admit it. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Research from the Gottman Institute, which has studied thousands of couples for decades, found something almost every self-help book gets completely backwards. Couples who accepted each other exactly as they were, flaws included, were far more likely to see positive change over time than couples who pushed for change directly. Read that again. Acceptance created more change than pressure ever did. Researchers call it the acceptance paradox. The less you demand someone become different, the more emotional safety they feel. And emotional safety, not criticism, is what actually allows people to grow. There's a neuroscience reason this works. Criticism and correction activate the brain's threat response, the same circuitry involved in fight or flight. When someone feels threatened, their nervous system isn't focused on growth. It's focused on survival. Growth requires the exact opposite state: calm, safety, and trust. So every time you push someone to change, you're literally triggering the one brain state where change becomes almost impossible. So why does this feel so backwards to us? Because human brains are wired to fix things. If a chair is broken, you fix it. If a relationship feels broken, your brain assumes the exact same logic applies. Except people aren't furniture. Love isn't a repair project. The moment you start treating a person like a problem to solve, you've already broken something you can't easily rebuild: trust. Now here's a question worth sitting with for a second. How do you actually know if you love someone, or if you just love their potential? Psychologists say there's one simple test. Ask yourself this: if this person never changed, not one single thing, would you still choose them today? If the honest answer is no, what you're feeling isn't love. It's a hope wearing love's clothing. This doesn't mean you should accept toxic behavior, disrespect, or genuine harm. That's an entirely different conversation, and one worth having on its own. This is about something quieter: the small, everyday moments where you correct, mold, hint, or silently wish someone was just a little bit different, a little more ambitious, a little more emotional, a little more like the person you secretly imagined they'd become. So how do you know if you're falling into this pattern right now? Here's a simple signal. Notice how often your affection rises and falls based on their behavior that day. If they were emotionally open, you feel close. If they pulled away, you feel yourself pulling back too, almost as punishment. That rise and fall isn't love responding naturally. That's a reward system, quietly training someone to perform for your approval. And relationships built on performance eventually collapse from exhaustion. So if you've recognized yourself in any of this, here's the part that actually matters: what to do about it. It starts with a single mental shift. Instead of asking, how do I get them to change? Ask, what would it feel like to fully accept this person exactly as they are today, forever? If that thought brings relief, you're probably in the right relationship, just caught in an old habit. If that thought brings dread, that's important information too, and it deserves your honest attention. The second step is catching yourself in the moment. The next time you feel the urge to correct, hint, or nudge someone toward being different, pause and ask one question. Am I trying to help them, or am I trying to make myself feel safer? Those two motives can look identical from the outside, but they lead to completely different relationships. And here's the twist most people never see coming. The partners who feel the safest, most loved, and most secure are usually the ones who end up changing the most. Not because they were pushed, not because they were nagged, but because they finally felt safe enough to be honest, be vulnerable, and grow without fear of losing love in the process. Meanwhile, partners who feel constantly corrected, compared, or worked on tend to do the exact opposite. They shut down. They get defensive. Some even change temporarily, just to keep the peace, and then quietly resent the relationship for it later. That resentment doesn't disappear. It just waits patiently in the background. So here's the real psychological difference between loving someone and needing them to change. Love says, I see you exactly as you are and I choose you anyway. Needing someone to change says, I see who you are right now. but I'm staying because of who I think you'll eventually become. One is presence. The other is a bet placed on the future. And bets don't always pay off. Here's something worth remembering the next time you catch yourself hoping someone will finally become who you need them to be. People rarely become the version you imagined out of pressure. They become that version, if they become it at all, because someone loved them enough to let them arrive there on their own timeline, or not arrive there at all. And the relationships that survive are almost always the ones where both people stopped waiting for a finished product and learned to love the work in progress standing in front of them. Maybe the deepest form of love was never about finding someone perfect. Maybe it's about finding someone real and having the courage to stay even when they never become the person your imagination quietly designed for them. So here's a question worth sitting with tonight, and I want you to actually answer it honestly, not just scroll past it. Are you in love with who your partner actually is, right now, in this exact moment? Or are you in love with who you're still secretly hoping they'll turn into someday? Type your honest answer in the comments below. I read every single one, and I promise you are not the only one who needs to hear the answer. If this video changed the way you see your relationship, or even your own past relationships, subscribe now. Because next week I'm breaking down the psychological reason avoidant partners suddenly pull away right when things start feeling real, and it's not for the reason you'd expect. You'll never see a mixed signal the same way again.